What's up, you guys, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we're talking about something that almost every woman experiences at some point on their fitness journey. Today we are talking about fat loss plateaus. I'm speaking specifically to the woman who has already seen success with body transformation in the past. You've lost weight, you've built the discipline, you know how to track your macros, you love being at the gym, but now something has changed. What used to work for your body is not working anymore. You eat similarly, you work out just as consistently, but the scale is still stuck. Your body composition isn't changing, and it feels like the effort that you're putting in no longer matches the results that you're getting. And this is the point where most women unknowingly dig themselves into a deeper hole, because when your results stall, your natural instinct is to push yourself harder, to eat less, to train more, to cut out foods, to try every supplement or biohack out there on TikTok. But what's actually happening most of the time is you're just guessing and you have no idea what's actually causing the plateau that you're experiencing. You haven't actually gotten to the root cause. And I know this because I have personally lived it. I'm going to get a little bit vulnerable with you guys here and take you back to like the end of 2021. This is when I hit a huge plateau in my own journey. Earlier that year, I competed in a bikini competition where fat loss was frankly pretty easy for me. I lost 12 pounds in 12 weeks, got into the leanest, best shape of my life. However, I never really properly reverse dieted back out of that. And I would have done anything to maintain that level of leanness. And I did. I'm a high performer. I tell myself I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And so I spent the rest of that year eating sub 1,500 calories, working out 6 days a week, doing lots of cardio, trying to maintain that very lean physique. And at the same time, I would be naive to not mention this is also the same year that my business skyrocketed. It blew up. I was serving over 100 clients. I was managing and leading a team of 5 to 6 other women that were working with me. I was navigating the pressure of entrepreneurship, of showing up on social media and needing to look the part. And so my life just looked like a constant state of go, 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 chronic output, and a lot of stress on me physically, mentally, and emotionally. And staying lean was such a core focal point of my life. However, by the end of 2021, everything completely shifted. And it felt like it was out of my control. Weight started coming on. I was extremely bloated. I was so fatigued, mentally and emotionally, completely overwhelmed. And I hadn't had a period for 5 or 6 years. So I was like, big red flags here. I feel out of integrity with who I know myself to be as someone who is generally very healthy and values my both internal health as well as my aesthetics and my physique, which are slipping right through the cracks of my fingers. And so I hired a dietitian at the time. We ran some lab work. My cortisol was sky high. My thyroid was super low. My sex hormones were pretty much non-existent. My liver markers were showing a lot of inflammation and poor recovery inside of my body. And as a practitioner now, I could have told you that without running any labs. I could have just looked at my symptoms and my lifestyle and been like, yep, this is what's going on. But at the time, I didn't really know that was the case. And so this is when I really started, dipping my toes into exploring hormone healing. However, in the beginning of 2021, my dad passed away, and this was completely unexpected. I woke up one morning to the call that no one ever wants to get. And I usually gloss over this part of my story. However, I want to pause here for a second because I think it's actually a very important part of my story, because losing him didn't just break my heart. It literally broke my body. This was the breaking point for me. That experience taught me more about the connection between your nervous system and stress and your metabolic health than any certification that I've ever taken ever has. I watched firsthand what happens when your body goes into full fight or flight freeze, goes into real mental, emotional, and physical burnout. What chronically unprocessed stress does to you on a hormonal and metabolic level, especially when you're a woman who's already running on empty. That sent my body into such a spiral. I was grieving. I was trying to keep my business afloat. I was trying to show up for clients, and my own health just kept getting pushed to the back burner. And it wasn't really until the end of 2023 until I finally grabbed a hold of myself and I was like, you need to make a change. And this is when I really continued for the second time, pursuing healing. I sought therapy. I hired multiple mentors, coaches, really started addressing my stress. I literally put a pause to my business so that I could focus on myself and restoring my hormones and my metabolism. I got my period back, and it was quite the journey. But I share this because I know what it's like to be in this season where nothing seems to be working, where you're feeling extremely out of control with how your body is responding, completely disconnected from your body, when your life is demanding so much of your time and energy that your health keeps falling to the wayside, yet internally you know that health is your number one value and priority. And deep down, you know that you need to heal yourself, but you don't know how to do it without putting everything else in your life on pause. And you're like, what gives? What's missing? How do I do this? And so you're just like throwing every quick strategy at it and truthfully, continuously just chasing leanness without actually getting to the root cause of what's going on and really healing internally. This is what keeps so many women stuck in the cycle of trial and error and saying, well, I've tried everything. The truth is you haven't gotten to the root cause of what's going on physiologically, hormonally, metabolically in your body. And when you identify that root cause, that's when the path forward finally gets a lot easier and a lot clearer. You stop pushing your body harder in the wrong direction, and you actually recognize, okay, why am I stuck in this plateau? What needs to change in my mental, emotional, and physiological health so that I'm working with my body instead of against it? Because you've been at war with it for years. You've been ignoring the symptoms for years. You've been pushing it too hard for too long. And so that's what I want this podcast episode to be about. I want you to be able to walk away with this knowing, being able to identify what are the root cause of the plateau that I'm currently experiencing in whether it's my weight loss and my physique or even in just feeling like myself in my own skin, and also what needs to happen for you to break through these plateaus. And I know that there are two different types of women listening to this right now, because I am a firm believer. What I say all the time is there's two different types of burnout. There's burnout because you are genuinely being consistent just with the wrong strategy. So you're not getting results and you're like, I'm doing everything and nothing's working. Then there's also burnout because parts of your habits, parts of your routine, parts of your life have slipped. You've put yourself on the back burner because of work or life or your career or your family or your relationships or trauma or whatever it is. And those little cracks in your self-confidence, in your self-trust, in your routines are burning you out because you know that you want better. You know that you deserve better. You know that you need to start showing up differently. Yet you keep staying stuck in your own sabotaging patterns. And so I'm going to be talking to both of you. Two different types of women experiencing two different types of burnout. Maybe you're experiencing a mixture of both types of burnout. And we're going to be talking about all of them today. And I wanted to caveat that because the very first plateau that we're going to dive into here is adherence, is the fact that we just need to do a little honest audit. What's really going on with you? Because when I look back at the season where my body was inflamed and gaining weight and completely dysregulated in 2021, 2022, my habits looked like waking up at 5 a.m. no matter how little sleep that I got, drinking an energy drink, training for an hour, coming back home, having breakfast, drinking coffee, which is more caffeine. That's what I ran through my veins, working all day, drinking like a Diet Coke or some like carbonated beverage to suppress my appetite as I skipped over lunch because I was too busy. I would maybe go for like one short walk a day, and then by dinner I was absolutely ravenous, easily downing 1,000 calories in one sitting, and then struggling to fall asleep at night, waking up the next day and just running on a chronic state of go stress all the time. And yes, like I said, there were hormone issues at play, and we are going to dive into those root causes, specifically what hormones are causing them later in this episode. But also, my habits were the problem. There were also habits that I knew weren't healthy or aligned with feeling good in my body. And a lot of times I will get on calls. I will, start working with a client and they will tell me, Gab, I've tried everything. I'm doing everything right. But then I look a little bit deeper and I'm like, okay, well, you're eating clean, but you're not actually tracking your intake. You don't know how many calories you're eating. Some days you're eating 1,400. Other days you're eating 2,400. you're not going to see any results like this. You're not going to see any results with healing your hormones and your metabolism. You're also not going to see any results when it comes to fat loss. So neither priority here is being prioritized. You're working out, but there are these like random workouts. It's not a structured program that's helping you achieve the body recomposition that you want. You're drinking 300 to 400 milligrams of caffeine a day. You're running on like 6 hours of sleep per night. Your weekends are 500 to 1,000 calories higher than your weekdays. You're sitting at a desk for most of the days getting max like 6,000 steps. That's considered sedentary. Now, none of these habits are inherently bad. You're not wrong for them. But when you combine them, even just a few, they slowly add up and they slowly pull you out of any calorie deficit that you would want to be in for body recomposition or fat loss. And they certainly work against your natural hormonal function. So the first question that you have to ask yourself is, am I truly being 80 to 90% consistent with the habits that align with the goals that I have currently in my health journey? You don't have to be perfect. We are not about perfection around here, but consistent enough for long enough that the strategy that you're using actually has a chance to work. Because if adherence isn't there, then we don't change the strategy yet. We have to tighten up your execution and your consistency first. And frankly, this is where most of my clients need the most support, is just a little bit better adherence. And I will caveat that with saying that a lot of my clients need a better strategy that they can actually be adherent to, because the old strategies that they are trying to be adherent to are unrealistic for what your lifestyle looks like at this point. As someone in their late 20s or 30s, working a high stress career that's really demanding, and also maybe even starting a family at the same time. You got a lot going on your plate. We need to have a different approach towards your health journey than what you took when you were back in college. So that's root cause of a plateau. Number one is your adherence. Number two is going to be metabolic adaptation. I talk about this in pretty much every podcast episode because I am so passionate about the fact that women need to understand this about their body, and it is not talked about enough. So let's say you do your adherence audit and you realize, I have been consistent. You're eating sub 1,600 calories a day. You're getting 8 to 10K steps minimum per day. You're training 3 to 4 days a week, but still nothing is changing. This is where the next factor comes in of metabolic adaptation, because your body is incredibly intelligent. If you have been dieting for a long time, your body is going to slowly adjust to that intake, meaning how much you're eating is going to be how much your body learns to burn, keeping you in this plateau because now you're not in a calorie deficit. This is where we start to see things like, low energy levels, weaker workouts, more cravings, feeling colder, slower recovery, your progress is stalled. What's happening on like a physiological level is that your body is trying to conserve energy because it's not getting energy from the food that you're eating in the way that it is supposed to be. So it's trying to conserve energy. Hormones are going to shift. Your metabolic rate's going to decrease. Movement, both inside and outside of the gym, is going to drop without you even realizing it, just happening subconsciously. What used to be a deficit for you now becomes your new maintenance calories because your body is very efficient at burning less calories throughout the day now that it has been fed less calories. I like to explain this like a deficit window. When you first start a calorie deficit, you have a very large window of dropping your calories. It's within this window that you are in a deficit and you lose body fat. But your body slowly closes that deficit window through metabolic adaptation, slowing down your metabolism, shifting your hormones a little bit, changing your overall lifestyle and movement and even, nutrition patterns. And now this is your new maintenance. And you would need to eat even less to create another deficit window to continue to see fat loss. However, a lot of times that's not necessarily sustainable, realistic, or the healthiest option. And so what you actually need to do is what's called a reverse diet. You need to reopen that deficit window by increasing your calories back up, which increases your metabolic rate and your overall maintenance calories, caloric burn, for you to create a new deficit window from there. So in the beginning of a fat loss phase, there's a very, very clear gap between the calories you're consuming and the calories that your body is burning. that's a deficit window. But when dieting goes on too long without adequate recovery, the window slowly shrinks and your body becomes more efficient and eventually the deficit disappears. And this is why simply just like cutting your calories lower and lower and lower is rarely the best solution when it comes to fat loss and when it comes to breaking a plateau. Instead, like I said, 99% of the time, the body needs a strategic break from a deficit, needs a break from dieting, which could look like just a short little diet break. I've actually used that with 2 clients in the past 2 weeks, and we see new low weigh-ins the second you come back from that diet break. That's maybe 2 weeks, even just a few days. Or we do a reverse diet, which is where you're going to gradually increase your intake for closer to 12 to 16 weeks. Reset your metabolism before going back into a targeted fat loss phase. This isn't because we're giving up on fat loss. This is because this is a strategic strategy to keep your metabolism running, to keep it efficient, to keep your body responsive in the way that we want it to be. So it's really all about restoring your metabolic function so that your body actually feels safe enough to let go of stubborn weight and your hormones don't permanently shift. Which leads me to root cause of a plateau number 3, which is hormonal adaptations. The next layer of fat loss plateaus comes down to your hormone signaling. Our body loses fat when our internal environment signals that it's safe and efficient to do so. But when certain hormones are out of balance, the body is going to prioritize survival over fat loss. And a lot of you listening to this are in survival mode without maybe even realizing it. So I want to break down specifically what 4 hormones are to target here. The 4 hormones that most commonly stall fat loss are going to be your thyroid, your insulin, your leptin, and your cortisol. So let's break down each one individually, starting with your thyroid. This is probably one of the most common ones that I see with clients, and it's most directly related to your metabolism. Your thyroid is essentially your body's thermostat. It determines how quickly your body converts food into energy, aka metabolism, aka burning calories. So when thyroid signaling slows down, your body literally burns fewer calories throughout the day. So the same calories that once helped you to lose body fat now become the calories where you maintain your weight, like we just talked about with the deficit window. So this could be you if you're noticing things like feeling constantly tired, even if you sleep well, your feet and hands are cold, you have brain fog, slower thinking, difficulty recovering, hair thinning, brittle nails, and fat loss slowing dramatically despite your consistency. Many women that I work with notice this, especially after long periods of undereating or, chronic stress on the body, because this is your body basically saying energy is scarce for me, let's conserve. On a cellular level, it's telling your cells, hey, you need to be able to function on fewer calories. You need to burn less calories. And so what to do instead of just continuing to slash your calories here is going to be a reverse diet. The solution is supporting your metabolic health fully, because that is what your thyroid pretty much controls. So ensuring that calories are adequate and not chronically too low, specifically increasing protein intakes to support your metabolic activity, prioritizing micronutrients to support thyroid function. These are going to be things like selenium and zinc and iodine and iron. Micronutrient deficiencies are one of the main root causes of metabolic dysfunction for a lot of women without really even realizing it. Addressing gut health issues, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the podcast, but thyroid conversion happens in the liver and the gut. So gut issues can really impact your overall thyroid health and overall signaling, and managing chronic stress, as I'm sure you already know listening to this. So sometimes fat loss plateaus really do break when you start eating more, not when you start eating less. So that is thyroid. That could be a core root cause, whether you are chronically or clinically hypothyroid or not. Number 2 is going to be your insulin. Insulin is the hormone that's responsible for moving glucose from your bloodstream into your cells for energy. And so when this insulin signaling becomes impaired, which is called insulin resistance, very common in my clients who have things like PCOS, the body becomes less efficient at using carbohydrates for fuel. So instead, it stores them. So energy is more likely to be stored instead of burned when insulin is chronically elevated, or there is some degree of insulin resistance going on a cellular level, you may notice patterns like carb cravings, especially at night, feeling very hungry shortly after meals, energy crashes, especially in the afternoon time, stubborn fat in like the midsection specifically, difficulty going long periods without food, feeling shaky or irritable when meals are delayed. Many women experience this after years of inconsistent eating patterns, high stress, poor sleep, very low calorie dieting, followed by like overeating cycles. And what to do here if you suspect that insulin may be the root cause for you is we really need to support your insulin sensitivity and focus on balancing your blood sugar. So for most of these clients, we're prioritizing strength training because this improves glucose uptake on a cellular level, where you want to build your meals around protein, fiber, and healthy fats. Because again, the way that your body is currently processing carbs isn't necessarily advantageous to body recomposition or fat loss. So we almost need to like retrain your cells to be able to absorb and utilize carbohydrates efficiently. Again, stabilizing blood sugar with consistent meal timing is going to be big. So making sure that you're not fasting for longer than like 3 to 4 hours and having breakfast like first thing when you wake up in the morning. Improving sleep quality is going to be really, really big. Sleep plays a huge role in how sensitive your cells are to insulin. And overall, just like increasing daily movement, like walking, this makes sure that your body is constantly burning that available glucose through using that available glucose in your bloodstream. So when this insulin sensitivity or signaling improves, your body becomes a lot more efficient at using energy rather than storing it, which can help with breaking through a fat loss plateau. So that is insulin, honestly, a very common one that I see with clients. Number 3 is leptin. So leptin is not talked about, I think, as much as it should be, especially when it comes to fat loss plateaus. It's one of the most important hormones for fat loss. It is produced by your fat cells specifically, and it communicates directly to your brain, telling your brain, hey, I have enough stored energy. It's safe enough for you to burn fat. But when someone diets for a long period of time, especially aggressive diets for long periods of time, those leptin levels are going to come down. And the brain interprets this as potential starvation. Like if we go back into like the beginning of humanity, this is starvation mode to our brain. So the body is going to respond by increasing your hunger cues, decreasing your energy expenditure, aka slowing down your metabolism, and making it extremely difficult for your body to let go of stubborn weight. If this is happening to you, you may notice things like constant hunger despite eating enough, feeling like you could eat an entire meal and then eat an entire meal very shortly after that, increased cravings, especially for like calorie dense foods, feeling mentally obsessed with food a lot, plateauing even with constant dieting. I see low leptin very commonly on labs. I had low leptin on my labs even just like last year. So this is very common with women who have been dieting on and off for years. And the solution here is often to very strategically increase your calories through a reverse diet, or even just a diet break, increasing those calories back up to maintenance frequently, even just temporarily, can help signal to the body that it's not stuck in this starvation. It really allows leptin levels to recover themselves and increase your body's willingness to burn fat again. So just emphasizing, sometimes eating more is exactly what the body needs in order to lose fat again in the future. That is hormone number 3. And hormone number 4 is everyone's favorite. It's cortisol, one of the biggest root causes, especially for high achieving women here. Cortisol is your body's primary stress hormone, as I'm sure you already know. And while cortisol itself is not bad at all, chronic elevation of cortisol can make fat loss extremely difficult. When cortisol stays high for long periods of time, the body is going to prioritize survival over fat loss. This shows up in women who are doing everything right, but constantly feel wired and tired. It's like, I'm putting in so much effort, but my body isn't changing. Especially something that I note for women who are struggling with cortisol is that it's not necessarily even body fat as much as it's like inflammation and water retention. So You might have difficulty falling asleep. You might feel tired during the day, tired at night, tired early in the morning, high anxiety, racing thoughts, increased cravings, because cortisol also works directly with our insulin and our blood sugar. Again, holding fat around that stomach midsection region, and maybe it's, again, not fat, but it's like water retention and inflammation. This often happens when you're combining like really intense training with under eating, with poor sleep quality, with high work stress, or even like a big like mental or emotional demand. Your body is operating in survival mode. Your body feels threatened, and it becomes very resistant to fat loss when this is the case. And so your solution, it's not necessarily to do less. I don't want to spread that message because I'm not a firm believer in that. Obviously, given my own story, like I didn't ever want to do less or to take things off of my plate. What I wish that I knew at that time, where I needed to prioritize recovery or healing, was that recovery was my solution. It wasn't about doing less. It was about recovering more, recovering harder. So prioritizing consistent sleep schedules, reducing excessive cardio and overtraining, and making sure that I was actually getting the most out of my training. I get so much more out of training 3 to 4 days a week now than I did 6 or 7 days a week back then. Incorporating in more walks through my day, supporting through nervous system regulation, doing more things for fun, like having more fun, more pleasure, more hobbies, reading, more down-regulating activities where I wasn't just glued to my laptop and screen all day, keeping myself in chronic stimulation, ensuring adequate calories for my activity levels, not living in a deficit for any longer than 20 plus weeks at max. When cortisol really comes down, the nervous system can stabilize. Your body gets out of fight or flight and into rest digest, where it feels safe enough to let go of stubborn body fat. This is where the body really becomes responsive again. So those are the 4 main hormones that you're going to want to look at if you are stuck in a fat loss plateau. Now, jumping from hormones, we're going to make a big pivot here away from hormones, because it goes right hand in hand with this conversation around the rest digest versus fight or flight state, is your digestive health specifically. This is a big issue with women who are chronically burnout, who have a history of undereating, overexercising. I would say 99% of the women that I work with who come to me and they're like, I'm doing everything right, I eat super healthy, they are the women with the biggest gut issues, with the most bloating, who are the most constipated of them all. And I get how frustrating that can be, because again, that has been me. When gut issues are at play, it is one of the biggest red flags that I see as a practitioner, because your gut isn't just responsible for digestion. It influences every other system that we've already talked about. It controls your inflammation levels, your hormone metabolism, your thyroid conversion, your insulin sensitivity, your nutrient absorption to support your metabolic function, and even your body's stress response. So if your gut isn't able to function properly, your body is going to struggle to mobilize fat, to burn fat efficiently, to detox properly, to regulate inflammation and water retention efficiently, to keep hormones steady and balanced, and have good recovery. So no matter how dialed in your nutrition is, if your gut is not in check, you are going to be struggling with fat loss. Women with what I would call like gut-driven plateaus often notice patterns like feeling bloated after meals, even when you're eating healthy foods, having, constipation or irregular bowel movements. This is you if you are not going to the bathroom at least 1 time a day. Alternating between constipation and loose stools, having excessive gas or digestive discomfort, even things like acid reflux are a big one that I see. Food sensitivities that seem to be increasing over time. This shows me that your gut lining has some degree of impairment, or just feeling puffy and inflamed despite eating well, working out consistently. These are the big red flags that I look for, that the gut is a potential root cause that we want to explore together. And the problem is that most women who suspect that gut issues, or that the gut is the issue, is that they're healing their gut with like these like viral strategies that are just making things worse. whether you're cutting out more foods. Like the first thing that women do is jump onto food elimination. It's gluten, it's dairy, it's sugar, it's grains. And then suddenly your diet is becoming even more excessively restrictive, when that's the root cause of your gut issues in the first place. And while certainly there are certain foods that can contribute to symptoms, just removing them is a band-aid without addressing the real root cause of why are these foods triggering in the first place? Why can't your body break down, digest, and handle these foods efficiently? It's contributing to nutrition deficiencies, like micronutrient deficiencies. It's increasing the stress load on the body. It is slowing down your metabolism. Food sensitivities are often a symptom of gut dysfunction, not the root cause of it. So elimination diets are a big mistake that I see frequently inside of my practice. Taking random gut supplements, another one. A mistake that I see so many women making is just like throwing every gut supplement they can find at the problem. It's probiotics, it's digestive enzymes, it's green powders, it's gut repair supplements, or coconut collagen, or sea moss, or whatever it is. Again, supplements without a clear strategy don't fix the underlying root cause issue. They are just a band-aid. And honestly, in some cases, they can aggravate your symptoms if the gut microbiome is already imbalanced. So this is a big red flag that I see. I also see women just ignoring digestion itself. Most of the most overlooked aspects of gut health is basic digestion, like further up in the digestive tract. The body has to properly break down food before it can excrete it and eliminate it, to be able to absorb nutrients from it. If digestion is impaired, that it leads to a whole downstream of issues, not just in the gut, but in your metabolism, in your cellular function, in your hormones. You're going to be struggling with fermentation in the gut. You're going to be struggling with nutrient deficiencies. You're going to be struggling with low energy. So all of this is contributing to metabolic dysfunction, leading to these fat loss plateaus that you are experiencing. So what actually needs to happen, if this is you, if you're listening to this and you're like, yep, I suspect that my gut is potentially the root cause here, we need to get to the root cause and restore proper gut function there. So we need to talk about improving your digestion. That looks like making sure that you're slowing down while you're eating, you're chewing your food properly, you're supporting the production of stomach acid and digestive enzymes so that your body can break down this food and be able to actually absorb it and digest it. Then we want to look at your gut. Are there any imbalances there that we need to address, like microbial imbalances? We need to eradicate any like bacterial overgrowth or yeast overgrowth, or if there's even low levels of the good gut bacteria, how do we support that and allow your body to proliferate and regrow those bacteria families inside of your gut. These are going to take like very targeted supplemental protocols based off of what's actually going on in your gut internally, which is why I'm a firm advocate for gut testing here. For some women, we need to do work like repairing the gut lining. Like if food is making its way through your digestive tract into your bloodstream, causing an inflammatory response, this is directly impacting your hormone signaling, your insulin sensitivity, your thyroid function. It is keeping your body stuck in the state of fight or flight because it is on high alert, fighting off of these toxins and these pathogens that are getting into your bloodstream that aren't supposed to be, that are supposed to be detoxed through your digestive system. So these are all the different things that we need to explore if your gut is the root cause here. And I see this very, very commonly with women who live their entire life in survival mode. Your entire life is in fight or flight, and you spend very little time in rest digest. That digestive system is being put on the back burner. It's becoming very, very compromised. And so one of the most interesting things that I see in my practice, that when gut health improves, fat loss often resumes without even changing your calories at all. Not because your diet changed, but because the body finally became able to absorb nutrients properly, regulate inflammation efficiently, metabolize hormones effectively, respond to nutrition and training in the way that it is supposed to be. So in other words, your body's internal systems start working in the way that they are supposed to again, and your gut is such a core foundation to that. And with that, fat loss becomes predictable. So if you're listening to this, all of this, not just the gut health section, but this entire episode, and you're like, yep, currently stuck in a fat loss plateau, I want to remind you, you don't just need to try harder. You need to identify which one of these factors is actually at play for you. Is it adherence? Is it metabolic adaptation? Is it hormone signaling? Is it your gut health? And once you identify this root cause, you can start making strategic adjustments instead of reactive ones. Because fat loss isn't just about being more disciplined. It's about working with your physiology, with your body, instead of against it. Again, you are not broken. You are not undisciplined. You are a woman who has been working incredibly hard, just in the wrong direction. So we need to take all of that effort that you're putting in and put it towards a strategy that is actually supportive of your body, not some cookie cutter thing, not some new trend, an actual plan that's based off of your lifestyle, your dieting history, and what's actually the root cause of the plateau that you're facing. Once we identify that root cause, everything starts changing and feeling much easier to do that. So if you're listening to this, you resonate with it, you know where to find me. You can apply to work with me down in the show notes below. You can always shoot me a DM on Instagram, and I'd be more than happy to dive deeper and chat about this with you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye.